call this evening. I have the honor and the privilege to bring you all this life changing information this evening that I love to call the Wealth and Retirement Formula. You guys, one of the reasons that I classify this information as life changing is so that myself and you, those of you who are attending, will never forget how many times, no matter how many times you hear this information, that you'll always remember that this information is something that is so exclusive and privileged to a very, very small demographic of people. There are not a lot of people having this conversation in regards to how money works. Okay. And I also promise you, okay, whether you've been invited here by somebody and this is your first time hearing this information, or if you're somebody who is a licensed financial professional on this call, okay, this information is life changing. Okay, a little bit about me, and those of you who can open up your cameras, I appreciate it. If you guys want the presentation to be really good, right? Then if you guys give me the opportunity to actually see your faces and actually interact with real people, the presentation would actually go better, right? But if I'm just kind of talking to screens, it's kind of difficult for me to get excited. Right, and passionate about what I'm teaching this evening, right? So your participation is greatly appreciated, but I promise you, what you put into it is what you'll get out of it too, right? And so, welcome to the call, you guys. My name is Suni Samad. I'm one of the business directors here on the platform of our Infinite Company, and a little bit about my journey, you guys. I started out in the medical field, working the W-2 like most people here. Some of you may be entrepreneurs already and having a ton of success, maybe as business owners and entrepreneurs, right? But most of us, okay, kind of come from a W-2 space. I was, just kind of working check to check like most people, on paper. My wife and I were making six figures, multiple six-figure income on paper, right? After taxes, a little less than that, right? But we were still check to check, you guys, too much month at the end of the money, okay? And I, like many of you, thought that I could work my way into wealth. Okay. Anybody ever felt like that before? Like when you were younger, right? Some of you guys are probably Gen X's like me, but when you were younger, you thought you'd get that good job and you'd be okay, right? Like that good job was going to get me there. And I remember being in the medical field, and in the medical field is very common culture to work at a particular facility and then lock in an hourly rate and then start pitching yourself to other facilities saying, hey, well, they're paying me 24, 25 over here. Can you give me 26? And you play that game, right? To realize that the more you're making, the higher your tax rate, so on and so forth, right? And so what ended up happening for me, you guys, is that, like most of you all, like many of you all, I was just kind of finding myself kind of lost in regards to money. I couldn't figure the money thing out. I couldn't crack the money code. It wasn't in a job. It wasn't in my talent. I've tried many things from the entrepreneurial space. I took fashion designing classes in San Francisco. I started a t-shirt company. I did artist development. I sang a little bit. I wrote music. I used to engineer studios, things of that nature, right? And I did it all, right? I was a serial entrepreneur. But for some reason, money continued to elude me, right? And it wasn't until I got into this industry, that somebody told me, hey, the more you chase money, the more it will elude you. Okay. But if you chase purpose, money will follow you all of your days. Right. And I didn't believe it when I was younger. I mean, I heard it when I was younger. I was like, yeah, that's a cliche. Right. That's just kind of what older people say because they don't have no money. That's what broke people say. Right. Heather, you feeling me? We're right here. Right. And so, yes. Right. What's up, handsome young man? I see you. And so, here's the thing, you
That's what
guys.
that's what they told us
I
when we went to college was, get out there and make
yes,
the money, right? I mean,
yes,
everybody goes to
right,
college, everybody makes money.
absolutely, absolutely, and we gonna talk about all of that, right? We're gonna talk about all of that, right? Because That's what they told us. She said it. I couldn't say it any better. That's what they told us, right? And who qualified them and the information, right? So we talk about, our relationship with money, okay? I, myself, okay, no matter how much I made in the medical space, you guys, I always found myself with too much month at the end of the money. That I was always check to check. Okay. And my mentor, JT, told me, he said, listen, Sunni, you're not broke because you have a money problem. You're broke because you have a Sunni problem and your thinking is broken. Okay. And you're disconnected from your ability, okay, to think for yourself. Anybody ever read this book called Think and Grow Rich? Show of hands, real quick. Think and Grow Rich, right? My mentor JT said, listen, there's a reason why it's called Think and Grow Rich and not Work and Grow Rich, right? Thinking is the hardest thing that most people never do. Please write that down. Thinking is the hardest thing most people never do. Why? Because, like Miss Heather just said, they told us what to do from kindergarten all the way to college, and we were disconnected from our ability to think for ourselves. And then when I started to approach entrepreneurship, Miss Coco, and I started to approach businesses, I did not have a relationship with my ability to think. And so I'd give up, right? And so we're going to talk about this life-changing information tonight called the Wealth Formula. I hope you guys have a pen and pad. This is one of my most favorite things to talk about because it was life-changing. Miss Marlena with the big flex with the pen. I see you, right? And so I see you. So I'm going to open up my screen, you guys, real quick. If you guys are ready, put a 1 in the chat and let's get into this information. All right. So again, one of the questions that I want to ask you all is this, okay? Would you all agree that most Americans do not understand how money works? By show of hands, put a 1 in the chat, right? Would you all agree that most Americans don't understand how money works? Okay, this is a very important question because 97% of the population is poor, no longer middle class. It's actually poor because we've got billionaires and trillionaires marginalizing the wealth gap. Some of you guys have been watching the news, right? You're very clear about what's happening. Wealthy people are getting to a point where they're controlling congressional seats and they don't even care anymore what poor people or middle class people think about it. Okay. They're calling your SNAP programs, your Medicare, your Medicaid entitlement programs now. This is the language that they're using. Okay. And so the wealth gap is being marginalized tremendously, right? Because most Americans do not understand how money works. And whether you agree with that or not, statistics say it. Okay. There's a saying, I don't know how true this is, but I read it in one of these books. They said if you took all the wealth, okay, and disseminated it across the world evenly, it would end up back in the hands of wealthy people because most people have no idea what to do with a dollar. Okay. And why is that? One simple term, and I want you guys to write this down. It's very important. It's called financial literacy. Okay. In the words of my mentor, Jim Rohn says, hey, a public school education, okay, will make you a living, but a self-education will make you a fortune. But one of the things that most people don't do is read. And wealthy people have a saying, if you want to hide something from poor people, put it in a book. Okay. See, they don't teach Wealth 101, 102 in high school. They don't teach how to get a 750 credit score in high school, right? There's a reason for that because traditional schools have been set up for you to go and work for big corporations. Corporations for years funded schools. Public school systems were developed in the agricultural area. This is why you get summer off and you go to school during the winter. Okay. To this day, schools are still set up from a very antiquated, okay, idea of what America looked like. Okay. So Heather, you and I, we grew up on a farm. Our parents want us to be more than farmers, right? So they send us to school. But we send us to school during the winter because in summer we got to help the family harvest crops. Okay. There's a reason why you got a spring break to this day. Spring break ain't for you to go to Jamaica and lose your mind and have drinks. Spring break to this day was developed so that during the break you can plant the crops with your family. Okay. So we're developed by a very antiquated school system. Would you agree? Right. So if our school systems are that antiquated, how do we depend on them to help us create wealth? Okay. So financial literacy is super important, but I promise you it's not a formal education. It is a self-education. All right. So let's talk a little bit about poverty language versus wealth language. All right. One of my mentors, Jim Rohn, he used to say this all the time. He says, I hang out with a group of wealthy friends, and what they do is they have meetings about what poor people do and find out how not to do it. They have meetings about what poor people read and find out not to read it, right? What they watch and don't watch it, what they do and don't do it, what they eat and don't eat it, because they understood that wealth creation was based on habits. See, the word millionaire is not a financial status as much as it is a character disposition. What is a millionaire? Someone who has the air of someone worth millions in regards to character and virtue. But you and I, like when I was younger, we've been pitted against wealthy people because we were taught those people were evil. I know you guys heard the same stories I did, right? If you watch any Batman stories, any Superman stories, any superhero stories, it's in there for a reason because they want you to despise wealth because they know you can never become what you despise. Okay? Your job is to do what we say, go to school, get good grades, get a good job, and go work for somebody else. Okay? So we're here to change that tonight. We're here to make you think about what you've been thinking about. Okay. And I want to ruffle people's feathers a little bit in the beginning of this so that the information that we're going to go into as far as the wealth formula lands in a fertile mental and emotional soil. So wealth language, poverty language, go to school, get grades, get a good job. Anybody heard of that before? I grew up on that. Where I come from, Oakland, California, a job is where you get off the elevator. You got a good job and a good career. You from Oakland, California. You look like me. Listen, you made it. All right. You didn't go to jail. You didn't you ruin your life before 18 and you ended up in a solid career. Okay. That's paying you enough to pay bills and pay rent. Now it becomes about finding a partner that you can match checks, paychecks with, right? Because that's most Americans' best plan. Right? How many of you guys grew up on that plan? I got a job. Now I got to find somebody with a job and we'll live happily ever after. Right? That's our plan. That's our plan. Right? And we demonize one another if we don't have a job. It's like, girl, I can't be with him. He don't got no job. Man, I can't be with her. She broke. Whatever the case may be. Right? But you guys, wealthy people teach, go to school, get good grades, and start a business. Why are they saying start a business? Because they understand one fundamental thing about time. Okay. See, wealthy people aren't saying don't go get a job because they're evil. They're saying don't go get a job and start a business because starting a business buys back your time. And the most valuable currency you and I will ever have is time. I can prove it. Okay. If I paid anybody on the call tonight $1,000,000, $5,000,000, I can give you guys $1 billion. The caveat is, hey, end your life tomorrow. None of you would take the $1 billion. That's how valuable just tomorrow is. And tomorrow's not even promised, by the way, but you still wouldn't bank figuratively and literally the $1 billion on tomorrow. You wouldn't do it. Just wouldn't do it. Tomorrow is far more valuable than $1 billion. So the question we have to ask ourselves is, who told us to rent our time for so cheap? Okay. Now I get it. In America, one of the coolest things about America is the fact that you can go get a job. You can go create an income for yourself. But a job is a good place to start, not a good place to finish. That's why it's called the corporate ladder and not the corporate bed. Okay. It's called the corporate ladder because you start here and understanding the soil beneath your feet called the United States of America. This is a capitalist country, more than black, white, liberal, conservative, red, blue, okay? Male dominant, female dominant, all this crazy stuff we talk about on these podcasts and news, right? America's capitalist. And in a capitalist country, okay, if you don't have financial literacy, it's like being in China and not speaking Mandarin. It's like being in Mexico and not speaking Spanish. Okay. When I talk to kids about this, I ask them all, have you ever taken a second language in school, college, whatever, high school? They all say, yes. What did you take? I took Italian. I took Spanish, right? Because they say, okay, English is their first language. And I say, English is not your first language. Finances is your first language in America. English is your second language, right? We got to stop lying to these kids the way we were lied to, okay? Because again, if you don't learn this early, you'll be late trying to figure it out, right? So this is the importance of financial literacy, you guys, right? As my mentor JT told me, this right here changed my life. There's only two relationships you'll ever have with money. You're either mastering money or money is mastering you. Money is a tool, okay? It is not something to consume. It is something to master, all right? So where is a good place to start or the best place to start, okay, in regards to redefining, our relationship with money? So let's start with what wealth is and actually redefining the word wealth, because I've been hearing this word all my life. We all been hearing this word all of our lives, but it's kind of safe to say that we don't understand it, because if we did understand it, we'd be mastering it. Okay. But let's review. Okay. What is wealth? Simple. Wealth is the byproduct of money making money for you. Simple and plain. Did you guys know that there's only 3 transitions of money in this country? Income to working capital to wealth. That's it. What if I told you that your job and the income from your job was not designed for you to live on, but it was designed for you to leverage to create wealth? What if you were taught that the sole purpose, the primary purpose of you getting a job was not to call it a living, but to call it an investment or a strategy to wealth building? What if I told you at 19, 18, hey, when you go get that job, we're going to take 30% of your income and put that money to work so that you can create wealth? That's the true nature of capitalism. See, the beautiful thing about this country and why people catch plane, train, bus, automobile, swim, sink, the whole nine to get here is because they can get a job. And if they can get a job, they can put some money to work to go and create wealth. Sad part about it is most people who've been living here the longest don't understand it. They don't understand the play, right? America called a play, drew it up, said hike. And Americans say, I don't know where the ball is hitting them in the back of the head. Meanwhile, the people who just got here, they understand the play very well, right? And they're after it. Why? Because they understand that wealth is the byproduct of money making money for you, okay? So if you're trading time, talent, or skill in exchange for money, you are at a disadvantage. Why? For 3 reasons. If I die too soon, live too long, or outlive my ability to create an income, I am at a loss. Heather, right? I got a great job. I make $100,000 a year, okay? But if I get sick, I'm talking about terminal illness, cancer, leukemia, failure, things of that nature, I can no longer trade my time or talent for that money. What happens to my money? I got about 6 weeks on a good job. I got about 6 weeks on a good job, okay? Before they say adios. All right. It was nice knowing you. Let's throw a party for Suni in the break room, you guys. I've seen those parties. Okay. I've been a part of those parties where, somebody had, tenure, and they got sick and they couldn't work anymore. And we had a farewell party for them. What are you going to do? No plan in place, no wealth, no money going to work. Okay. So here's the thing. If you were taught to trade time, talent, or skill in exchange for money, okay, you were miseducated about wealth. Because wealth, okay, says that money is supposed to beget more money, the same way that apples, oranges, and lemons beget more apples, oranges, and lemons. Okay? I can't get apples from lemons. I can't get wealth from time or talent or skill. Okay? And so my mother used to tell me all the time, son, money doesn't grow on trees. Knowing what I know now, mom, I beg to differ. Okay. See, money does grow on trees when you understand that money is both the seed and the harvest. The problem is we've been taught on the harvest side of money, on the consumer side of money, but we've never been taught to replant, resow, and cultivate our money. So, how do you do that? Okay. This is where we're going to talk about the wealth formula. And it is actually a formula. I call it America's or the wealthy's best kept secret. Okay. It's time plus capital plus rate of return minus inflations and taxes equals wealth. Okay. Time plus capital plus rate of return minus inflation and taxes equals wealth. Okay. Now, some of you might be saying it can't be that simple. And I'm saying, yes, it is that simple because most things that have success tied to it are simple. We just grew up in a complex world that teaches us that the more complex a thing is, the more valuable it is. And I beg you to, I submit to you that that is a total lie. That is a total fallacy. That is something we've made up in our minds to be true. That the more difficult things are, the more complicated they are, the more valuable they are. I tell you, when it comes to wealth building, it's the complete opposite. When it comes to businesses, when it comes to finances, it's the complete opposite. Simplicity is the key to wealth. All right. So let's get into it. I'm going to talk to you guys about the first two concepts by introducing you all to two people you all know very well, Mr. Start Early and Mr. Start Late. Okay. But time builds wealth. Okay. All your money, allow your money enough time, okay, for the interest to compound and build your wealth. So we got two gentlemen, Mr. Start Early and Mr. Start Late. Mr. Start Early comes to a seminar like this. He says, oh my God, Mr. Samad, that was amazing information. I'm going to start saving $300 a month at the tune of about $3,600 a year. Okay. At an 8% interest rate. Now, I want you guys to see the interest rate as soil, and I want you guys to see the $3,600 as seed. All right. Now, here's a cool thing about it. Now, Mr. Start Early starts saving. Notice I didn't say spend. He's saving. He's investing. There's a difference between an expense and an investment. That's a very fundamental thing that most Americans don't understand, is that there's a difference between an expense and an investment, right? We create these strategies for people all the time. They say, how much does it cost? It's not a cost. It's a savings, okay? It's not costing you anything to save your money. All right. You're advantaging your money against time. Okay. So by 31, this gentleman starts at 25, but by 31, okay, he's got a nest egg of about $37,467. Not bad for a 25-year-old who came to a seminar. All right. But something very interesting happens after 31, 32 through 48. Okay. This big blank spot that looks blank or empty is not actually empty. This is called time. Okay. Time against something called compounded interest is now growing his money year after year after year after year after year after year. Time. Okay. Time is growing his money. Did you guys know time grew money? Right? This was foreign to me at one point in time. But this is good stuff because when you understand it, okay, you can grow wealth. Now, by the time he's 48, $128,367, not bad. But by 32, something very interesting happens. Him and Mr. Starlate, they get back together. Mr. Starlate says, hey, you still doing that thing, you know, when you went to the seminar and you start saving $300 a month? Mr. Start Early says, I'm glad you asked. Let me show you my account. He opens up his iPhone. He says, I got about $37,467. Mr. Starlate says, oh my God, that's amazing. Is it too late for me to get started? Right? Get it? Because his name is Mr. Starlate. He does everything late. He says, no, it's not too late for you to get started. So he gets started. By the time he's 48, he's got about $131,221. Not bad. Mr. Starlate says, you know what? Let's compare apples. He says, cool. He says, I got 131,000. What you got, Mr. Start Early? He says, I got 128,000. He says, how is it that I got more than you and I started after you? Mr. Start Early says, no, you don't have more than me. Okay. I only invested 25,200. You invested 61,200, which means that you netted about 70,000. I've netted about 103,000. I have more than you. On paper, you have more than me. What is the caveat here? The caveat here is, please write this down. The more time you have, the less capital required. The more time you have, the less capital required. This is why we always say old money was once new money. But what we know to be old money now got started early. Hello. There's no difference between, the billionaire next door and you. They just started early. They're not talented, right? They don't have any special skill sets, not in regards to the wealth capacity that we're talking about. Because you guys, this is what's so mind-blowing about it. This requires no skill set. This requires no skill set. It is anybody's game to grow wealth. But because we don't have this information and we think that it's some, foreign, concept that's growing wealth out here. I got to know somebody. I got to have an inheritance. No. All you got to do is understand how money works and what to do with a dollar, right? I digress. So let's talk about the third concept in the wealth principle. It's called rate of return. Now, please take note of this. The only reason anybody anywhere invests in anything is for a rate of return. Okay, I'm going to say that one more time. The only reason anybody anywhere invests in anything is for a rate of return. So if I'm invested in real estate, crypto, if I'm invested in gold, silver, coins, baseball cards, I don't care what it is, you are investing in it because you want a rate of return. If I were buying a home, I saw Mr. Hans Augustin on here, right? Our real estate mogul. And if I had a home, okay, that home is an asset. That asset is worth a particular dollar amount. I put the dollars that the bank tells me it's worth in it, okay? And I pay it and then I let it appreciate over time. Here's time building wealth again. I let it appreciate over time and then I separate, okay, the money that I put in it, okay, from the money that it appreciated, and I get a rate of return on my investment. Same thing with gold. Okay, I invest in gold. They say, okay, in 5 years, this is going to be worth. So I let time appreciate the value, okay, in the gold, and I separate my principal from my interest. That's called a profit or a return. So let's talk about how to put money, generic money, in a situation with no brick or mortar, okay? No business concept whatsoever, right? This is good stuff. Listen, no business concept whatsoever, no brick and mortar, just a single George Washington by itself, a Ben Franklin, a Jefferson. No business concept, Mr. Taylor. No brick and mortar. This ain't called Joe's Pizza. This ain't called, none of that. This is just an old dollar appreciating in value. Okay? Now, watch this. Okay? Rate of return is based on the rule of 72. The rule of 72 determines any interest rate divided into 72, okay, is going to determine how long it takes for the principal to double. So I got 4 29-year-olds here with 10,000 seeds, okay, and they all got different soil. All right, I got 1%, 4%, 8%, 10%. Let's look at 4%. 4 goes into 72, 18 times. Therefore, every 18 years, the $10,000 is going to double. 29 to 47, 20,000, 47 to 65, $40,000. Now, not much. $40,000, we can't really retire on $40,000. All right, let's just be honest, okay? Especially, okay, today. Now, if I took that same principal and I had a 10% interest rate on my money, well, 10 goes into 72, 7.2 times. So every 7.2 years, 29 and 36, okay, 20,000, 36 to 43, 40, 43 to 50, 80, 50 to 57, 160, 57 to 65, $320,000. Not bad for a 29-year-old who started off at $10,000. Why? Because the average median for people who retire with 401ks, okay, is a whopping, drum roll please, $87,000. The average American is retiring with $87,000 average in a 401k or 403b situation. Why is that? It's not that they're dysfunctional as much as the people who own them are. Okay. You start off at 22 years old like me, okay, and you get into a emergency situation. Well, that so-called retirement fund turns into emergency funds. How many of you guys bold enough to say you borrowed from your 401k before, like me? Okay, I used to think that it was just for emergencies. I really did. Okay. And you start off and you say, you know what? Well, I need new tires. I need a new windshield. I was driving down the freeway and I was behind that 18 wheeler and the rock popped up and it cracked the windshield. I can't ride around with a cracked windshield, right? Because, this is my car. This is my new car. But I don't have enough extra money from my paycheck to buy it because the guy told me it was $350, but I got this little 401k thing going. That's a little 401k thing going, right? Let me just borrow $500 from that. Then they didn't tell me I had an uncle I never knew named Sam. Okay. And anytime I touched it, okay, he said, this is ours, not yours, right? When you put the IRS together, it spells theirs. Okay. That's theirs. This is why these government-funded programs or government-funded retirement plans like 401ks and 403bs, they're just tax codes. Okay, they're not really retirement funds. They know that between 22 and 65, a lot of life is going to be lifing. Okay, and you are going to probably turn that so-called retirement money into a emergency fund. All right, so 320,000, not bad. Okay, especially when the banks, traditional banks, on your money. Yes, a good bank gives you 0.02% on your savings account. All right. So, why do we, and this is a question that I want you guys, it's rhetorical, you don't have to answer, but why do we have our money in traditional banks in the first place? Did you guys know that the primary purpose of you holding your money in any financial institution is so that that financial institution can grow your money? See, when I was a kid, I was told it's safer, it's more responsible, it's all these other things, but nobody ever told me that it's to grow your money. Okay, so somebody said in right now in the crowd, I can hear you guys. I'm telepathic that way. Somebody said, "Hey, where do you find a 10% interest rate?" I heard you, right? Well, you got to speak to somebody named Marlena Smith. Okay, you got to speak to somebody by the name of Anna Bali. Okay, these licensed financial professionals on this call, because your money has to be introduced to those interest rates. The institutions that hold those interest rates, they don't have ATM machines in front of them. Okay, they don't have easy access. You look at National Life Group, they got 2 locations. I believe one's in Vermont, one's right here in Addison, Texas. That's it. They hold over like $600 billion in like assets under management. And they grow people's money at interest rates that are absolutely phenomenal, but you got to be introduced. Okay. So we're going to talk about that a little later. Okay. But let's first talk about how money grows, because it's important. Okay. If you're going to place your money somewhere for it to grow, well, what are the ways money grows? All right. Money only grows 3 ways. I call these the 3 money trees: fixed, variable, and index. Now, fixed is what you're going to get from your traditional bank, like I just mentioned, 0.02%. But can we grow wealth at a 0.02% interest rate? Absolutely not. So we X this one out. Now, we can look at the variable market. Your 401ks and 403bs are in variable products, right? But But the dangerous part about the variable market for the average American, the check to check American, the hardworking American, right, is you can't time the market. We don't know when the next pandemic is coming. We don't know when the next housing market crash is coming. I personally lost a home in two 403Bs during 2008's housing market crash. Okay. Nobody ever told me that my house was connected to a market that could crash and make me lose value in my home. I was upside down on my loan. My question to the bank was, when was I upside up? 28 years old. This is speaking a foreign language to me. I have no idea, Mr. Wells Fargo, what you're talking about. Okay. Well, that means that you owe more on the house than the house is actually worth. What do we do now? Okay. I don't know was the answer. Okay. So we're going to give you some forgiveness and some time and things of that nature. Meanwhile, the loan was still ballooning and the payments were still increasing. Okay. Can't time the market. Warren Buffett, the goat of investing, says two golden rules to investing. Rule number one, never lose money. Rule number two, never forget rule number one. He also went on to say, as long as there are index strategies, okay, in the market, okay, no average American's money belongs in variable products. Okay, you gotta love that, because if the name of the game is never lose money, and I can index my money and guarantee zero loss, that's what the GOAT's talking about. Got it all wrapped up here in this thing called indexing. What is indexing? Point to point contract, meaning that November 4th, 2025, November 4th, 2026. The market between those 2 points, that's 10%. Okay. The financial institution is going to retroactively interest credit my account those gains. And then I start again from zero. What happens when the market goes down? Well, my money's not participating in the market. It's only mimicking the market when it does good. Oh man, isn't that a win? This is another wealthy's best kept secret. Indexing. Listen, I want you to Google it, research it, look it up. Ask a financial advisor where they have their money. I bet you they'll tell you it's in index strategies. The reason that they tell you to put your money in variable products, Mr. Taylor, is because if they're not managing any risks, what's their value? The only reason we pay financial advisors is to manage risk. But if we remove the risk altogether, they don't have a job. So they're constantly telling Americans, you need to have your money in the market. And if I were you, because of your age, I would invest aggressively. I'm going to diversify your portfolio. I'm going to put a little bit of aggressive stuff in there, some conservative stuff, some things that'll meet your goals on time. Meanwhile, they get paid a ton of fees along the way. You get one of the financial advisors on this call, okay, they'll help you index your money at no cost to you. Isn't that amazing? Okay, so let's get back to these banks. In 2008, during the housing market crash, the federal government bailed out a lot of banks. Okay, the Lehman Brothers lost. They were the biggest losers. Okay, the Lehman Brothers. All right, now a lot of the banks were bailed out by, coincidentally, life insurance carriers. Okay, life insurance carriers were not worried about the economy. Okay, or the housing market crash. You know why? Because they didn't have their money in real estate. So the federal government borrowed a lot of money from insurance carriers to bail out banks, but under the agreement that you can no longer make real estate your top tier investment. Okay, if you go to any bank and look at the top tier investments now, okay, it is called bank owned life insurance, BOLI. How much so? Okay, $24 billion worth of top tier investment from Bank of America. Okay, would it be $19 billion worth of top tier investment from Wells Fargo? Would it be JP Morgan, $12 billion? Okay, this is called a clue. When your financial or your traditional banks or biggest financial institutions are invested in something, that's called a clue. Somebody says, well, $24 billion. Why are they invested in cash value life insurance or bank owned life insurance? Because of the rule of 72. The only reason anybody anywhere invests in anything is for a rate of return. Banks too. They're not exempt. They want a return on your money, not theirs. That's the only difference between them and us. They want a return on your money. All right. So, how do they get the greatest return on your money? Bank on life insurance. Why? Because for the past 20 years, the average return without fluctuation has been about 7% on bank on life insurance. Well, somebody says that's not much. Well, you tell me where you can go get 7% for 20 years straight. Okay. For one, for two, against 24 billion. Somebody want to do the math? Okay. That's a pretty penny. 7% on 24 billion. All right. So bank-owned life insurance, while they're giving you 0.02%, they're getting a whopping 7-8% on your money. Somebody say cut out the middleman. All right. Now, inflation. Okay, let's talk about it. Okay, how do you beat inflation? We're talking about it because we want to beat it. Okay, how do I beat this stuff? How do I put myself in a position to be superior to it? Right? How do we beat inflation? For the past 10 years, the inflation rate has been 2.91%, average of 3%. Meaning that if your money does not grow at a rate that supersedes the inflation rate, you are losing money. You mean to tell me that I can have $1 million in the bank right now? Let's say 100,000. I have $100,000 in the bank right now. Okay. And I can have it. I could have had 100,000 in the bank untouched, unscathed, forgot about for the past 10 years. And I've lost 30% in buying power. Yes, you've lost $30,000 in value over the past 10 years. Even though on paper, you still got 100,000, right? So how do you beat inflation, and why is it important to beat inflation? Because you want to maintain the value of your money. So your money has to go to work. Well, how do you beat it? I just said it. The rule of 72. You put your money in a vehicle that supersedes the inflation rate. If my money's in a vehicle at 8%, I beat inflation by 5%. I win. If my money is growing at a rate of 10%, I beat inflation by 7%. I win. I beat inflation. See, when you're watching the news, you guys, I want you guys to remember this conversation. They're talking about the economy as though it's your economy, and your economy does not have to be the economy. Your economy can be a economy. What do I mean by that? If they recalled all the groceries at the store right now, okay, said, no, don't buy any chicken, don't buy any beef, don't buy any vegetables. But I've been growing my own chickens and my own cows and my own vegetables. I don't care what's going on down the street at the grocery store. I got my own food economy. You guys, you can empower yourselves to have your own economy. Hello. Do you guys know that some people still planning vacations? They're like the government shut down. What does that mean to me? My money's growing at an interest rate of about 10%. I'm doing all right. Okay? This is how empowering this information is. See, you get to skate above or fly above the clouds. It's sunny up there. You guys know that, right? You break those clouds, sun is shining so bright. Okay? But some people live below the clouds because they're adjusting to status quo. You and your family get the opportunity to rise above the clouds. Okay, if you understand this information. Okay, now let's talk about taxes. This is the last philosophy in the wealth formula. Okay, now how's your money taxed? Tax now, tax deferred, or tax retirement, tax free, excuse me, or what we like to call tax advantaged. Okay, what's tax now? Mutual funds, savings accounts. We already know we can't grow wealth in a tax now dollar situation. Okay. So how do I put my dollars in this bucket? Tax deferred. Well, tax deferred, catch 22. All right. Tax deferred is getting taxed on the harvest and not the seed. I'd rather get taxed on the seed and not the harvest. Okay. Don't tax me on my million, tax me on my dollar. Okay. Now, again, if you stretch this 401k situation out, and the tax consequence are set up against me and not in my favor, I don't think this is the best situation for a 22-year-old that just got out of college that doesn't know how a dollar works. Okay? This 401k, this 403b is going to be their emergency funds. We had that conversation. They say, well, I'm going to invest, my employer matches up to 8%. Great. Okay. Outside of your employer's match, you're sending unnecessary dollars to the tax slaughterhouse. Why? Because there's a great chance the taxes are going to increase later. So if I pay, this is 2025 and I'm retiring in 25 years, in 2050, is it safe to say taxes may be a little higher? Right? So tax my dollars at today's tax rate is the name of the game. Okay. So I put money in this bucket at today's tax rate, convert those dollars into what we call post-tax dollars. So that when I go to get them out, I get them out in the form of tax-free contributions. Why though? There's only two places inside of the entire United States tax code, okay, that allows you to do that. It's a Roth IRA or life insurance. Somebody said life insurance. Yes, cash value life insurance, even more so than a Roth IRA because there's an annual minimum of how much money you can put inside of a Roth IRA. But there is no annual minimum in the amount of money that you can put in cash value life insurance. So, Mr. Taylor, where do you think wealthy people are putting all their money? In the millions. Okay. 7702, tax code 7702 says, okay, any cash value life insurance policy or genuine, they call it a genuine life insurance contract that's attached to the market cannot be classified as gross income. Therefore, it cannot be taxed. Now, if you supersede something called guideline premiums, which is a real thing, okay, which limits your ability to put money in a cash value life insurance policy, it's still a great thing because it just goes from being a genuine life insurance contract to a modified endowment contract, which is still amazing, by the way, okay? Still absolutely phenomenal. So, where do we think, or where are we desiring to put our money? We want to put our money in this bucket right here. Okay. Tax-free or tax advantage. Okay. Why though? Why? Let's talk about why. Okay. Why are we in a rush? Why do we have a sense of urgency to get this information to people, change lives right away? Because of something called time and the fact that we're running out of it. Okay. And life is real. In the event, 3 reasons: that I die too soon, become ill, or outlive my ability to produce an income, I need to have some capital going to work. Money can make more money for you than you could ever make for yourself. Money can make more money for you than you could ever make for yourself. You don't need a bright idea. You just need to understand what to do with a dollar. See, I used to go on vacation sometimes, you guys, and I'd be like Hawaii or Jamaica with my wife, and I'd be looking to my left and right, and I see these people just kind of living the life they wanted to live, and I'm like, I used to like, what do they do for a living? Like, do they sing? Are they some sort of celebrities? Or no, no, no. They're just some people who knew what to do with a dollar. See, somebody changed Shaquille O'Neal's life. He's a famous basketball player. Some of you guys know who he is, right? He met a guy who challenged him in a game of Big Bank Take Little Bank. That's a little neighborhood game I used to play. Let's play Big Bank Take Little Bank, right? And somebody challenged Shaquille O'Neal at that game. And this was a guy that he never met or seen a day in his life. He says, I got more money than you. Shaquille said, no, you don't. He says, yes, I do. He says, no, you don't. He says, yes, I do. He says, how do you figure? He says, because when you stop playing basketball, you have no more money. I don't have to play basketball, and my money's going to continue to grow no matter what. Changed his life, introduced him to a concept called annuities. Right away, he started implementing his money, and that's why he's the business mogul that he is now. Same thing happened to Magic Johnson. Magic Johnson just won his 18th ring as a business owner. He got six of those rings playing for the Lakers. He's got another 18 rings because he owns hockey teams. He owns baseball teams. Did you guys know that? right? 18 championships under his belt. As a business mogul, he took the golden age of his earning abilities and put some money to work at a high level. Why? Because if he died too soon, became ill, or lived too long, it would be too late. See, your greatest asset in this country is your ability to produce an income. Your second greatest asset is how well you protect it. So let's talk about a wealth formula strategy that we know of that works. This is personal to me. This is my son's, Tyler Andrew Hampton's wealth strategy that my wife and I put together. Now, please understand that I personally manage about 7 of these strategies with my family. Okay. Right? My 7-year-old son has one of these strategies. I have one of these strategies. My wife has one of these strategies. My daughter has one of these strategies. I just got 2 twin granddaughters. I cannot wait to start putting their policies together. Right? So here's the thing: time, capital, rate of return, taxes, inflation. So for my 24-year-old son, time, all right, 20 years of funding, right? As Mr. Start Early in the earlier illustration had a 6-year funding period. My son is Mr. Start Early too. He's in his 20s. So we got a 20-year funding period. So by the time he's 44, he will no longer be investing or sowing any seeds. All right. The capital that we're putting to work, $156 a month. Okay. The rate of return on average inside of this Index Universal Life strategy, National Life Group, okay, who's an A-rated company. On the low end, the last 20 years has been 6.42%. On the high end, last 20 years has been 15.88%. Okay, not bad. Tax advantage growth. Why? Because it's connected to a genuine life insurance policy to the tune of about $500,000. Okay, and we beat inflation because the interest rates are 6.42 to 15.88%. This is the ultimate wealth formula strategy. Okay. Now, how much so? $500,000 death benefit. He dies tomorrow. Okay. But we're leveraging the death benefit to grow the cash value. $730,000 by the time he's 69. By the time he's 84, $1.9 million. All right. $601,000 in terminal, chronic, critical, and critical injury and critical illness. Okay. Chronic illness, $11,000. All right. Per month. Okay. Unlike your 401k, my son can loan against his money. If he wants to buy a house, he doesn't have to leverage his credit or ask a bank's permission. Okay. If he wants seed money for an investment, he doesn't have to leverage his credit or ask the bank for anything. He has become his own bank. BYOB. Doesn't mean buy your own bottle anymore. It means be your own bank, by the way. All right. He changed the game. All right. I know some of y'all, when I said BYOB, y'all kind of something happened. You know what I mean? No, it don't mean that no more. Right. The new cool and sexy is financial literacy. Okay. Be your own bank. All right. Now, $112,880 is the most we'll ever invest in this strategy. But as you guys can see, over year after year after year after year, this money grows in compounded interest to the tune of about 1.9 million by the time he's 84. Also, too, the death benefit increases because that's how we set it up. In appropriation to his life's needs. Okay. At 24, he doesn't need $2 million. All right. But, okay, by the time he's 84, he may have some children, things of that nature. So the death benefit increases in appropriation to his life's needs. All right. So by the time he's 84, you have about $2,020,000 to give to my unborn grandchildren from him. Okay. Tax-free inheritance. All right. We're talking about changing financial legacies, you guys. So who qualifies to work with us? There's some financial professionals on this call tonight. And if you're a guest, okay, please thank the person who brought you on board because, again, this is life-changing information. Okay. We're licensed professionals, qualified to work with anyone. You guys, we customize strategies that work for the people that we work with. There's no cookie cutter strategies. All right. Meaning that we sit down with our clients, we do something called a financial needs analysis. We want to know what your goals are. We want to know what your needs are. We want to know what your income is. We want to know what kind of bills you pay right now, because if we cannot help you, we promise not to hurt you. Okay. We want to make sure that whatever strategy you put in place is something that's affordable. all right, to you, because this is a long-term strategy. Guys, there are no get-rich-quicks that exist, okay? The only reason that people get scammed, by the way, is because they expect something for nothing, okay? When you expect something for nothing, you allow yourself to be scammed by somebody who wants to scam you. But understand that these are long-term investments, meaning that there's some patience, there's some discipline that comes with this. But ask yourself, is it worth it? See, if I can make a 7-figure income in 5 years, if it took 5 years to grow a 7-figure income, is it worth it? It took 10 years. The average American doesn't cross 7 figures until 20 years of working. Okay. So we meet with our clients every 6 months, which is the real value. If you ask me, because how many people do you know that has a licensed professional in their back pocket to meet with them every 6 months to make sure that their financial goals are in order? All right. So you guys, I called this the best kept secret. The secret is out. Question I want to ask you guys is, was this valuable? Okay. Was this valuable? And who do you want to tell about this information? Okay. So I'll open the call up to you guys, right? We got about 2 minutes left. Anybody want to add something to this? Was this valuable? Did this excite you at all? Is this something that you want to implement yourself if you haven't already done so?
Mr. Shuney, thank you for.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to
Ladies
say, Mr.
first.
Shuney, thank you for sharing with us tonight. This definitely helped. I've heard of this banking concept with the life insurance before, and this just kind of helped enlighten it. So now I can explain it to my clients better. Thank you so much.
Love it, love it, love it, love it. Absolutely, Miss Heather. And are you a part of our Infinite Company already?
Yes, sir. I'm on Gabe Gonzalez and Keith Squall's team.
Let's go. Let's go. Well, you're rocking with the best. All right. That gentleman,
I do. I've
Keith
got an
Squalls.
awesome upline. I love these guys.
Yes,
They're
yes.
amazing.
Keith Squalls is absolutely phenomenal. And so is Gabe Gonzalez. So yes, welcome aboard. And yes, I'm happy you joined us tonight, Heather. Anybody else? Mr. Taylor, I heard you speaking, brother.
Yes, sir. I just want to say, every time I come on this call, brother, I pick up new things, and you never get too old to learn. So,
Yes, sir.
my mission is to let as many people know about this. I invited some folks to it, and one lady was ill and wanted to know if the same link can be used next week. So, a lady that I work with through the funeral home, and she's wanting to look at it. So, this is like a college course.
Yes, sir.
A college course. So I appreciate you pouring into us and giving
Absolutely.
us the tools we need.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. I appreciate you all appreciating me. Listen, you guys, every Tuesday night we will be here. One of the worst things you can do in this space or as an entrepreneur is arrive. Okay.
Right.
You never arrive. Okay. You always be a student. Okay. Those of you who have agency, right? When they see you here, they come here too. All right. So, with that said, you guys, it's been a plum pleasing pleasure, in the words of what's my guy's name who used to say that all the time. It's been a plum pleasing pleasure. Here every week, Sunni Samad. I will see most of you guys on our winner circle tomorrow morning. You guys have a blessed evening. Good night.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.